By virtue of the powers vested in me as Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I hereby declare that this congregation of the VUT University of Technology is duly constituted for the diplomas and degrees to be conferred to those students whose names appear on the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a congregation, you are invited to observe a moment as we observe a prayer before we commence with the official program. Dear Almighty, the Omniscient One, we come before you with all humility to serve you and your people. Please guide us in everything that we say and do. Bless each one of us and bless our institution. Inspire us to strive for that which is good and not to be self-seeking and serve our own interests, but let everything be done to your glory. Use us as your vessels of honor so that the fruits of our labor may endure for peace and goodwill towards all mankind. We ask this in your name. Amen. You may be seated. Welcome to the graduation ceremony of the VUT University of Technology at the Vanderbilt Park campus. Vice Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to welcome you as a congregation gathered here today to witness and celebrate the achievements of our students at VUT on this momentous occasion. A special word of welcome to our distinguished guests, members of staff, family, and friends. To all the diplomats and graduates, welcome to this long-awaited day. May it be everything that you hoped for. Vice Chancellor, it's my honor to present to you candidates of the Faculty of Management Sciences of the VUT University of Technology, whose names appear in the program for the receiving of diplomas and degrees. National Diploma, Human Resources Management. Ariwodo VI. Amagolo GN. Bukes BL. Bohata MF. Chakela SL. Liseli BS. Lachabo TC. Mawai NM. Makubedu MN. Makubela TI. Malijane KS. Maleka ME. Umdulwa RT. Malubane L. Molokane L. Mosia L. Mosutsa NV. Katlo P. Tusana S. Nshanti TT. Piri SW. Zeta KH. National Diploma, Labor Relation. Imzinkulu WPB. Noi DA. National Diploma Logistics. Adiayo BC. Mdladla MG. Makola AM. Maliketla S.J. Mokenyane L.C. Makuveli Z. Yongkong O.L. Piga K. Cieli KV. Sitoli NB. Chabalala SL. Shikonwane M. National Diploma Management of Training. Insina SMM. BTech Business Administration. Holini NGG. Lamini NG. Kanyenda KF. Mampa DA. Musasa KF. Rahi MJ. BTech Human Resource Development, Lamini SG. BTech Human Resources Management, KLA MA. Dlamini CB. Kotla MR. Motlatla TE. Ngubeni NI. Nsasa N. Kaoli MR. BTech Logistics. Makume AM, cum laude. Malasela TE. Mofokeng R. MTech Labor Relations Management. Magister Technologia Labor Relations Management with a dissertation title, Employee Perceptions of the Effects of Retrenchment on Job Stress and Organizational Commitment in a Mining Company. Supervisor Prof. M. Durup and co-supervisor Dr. P. A. Joubert. Seteni Landiswa Pulvia. Magister Technologia Logistics, MTech Logistics, with a dissertation title, An Investigation, Perception of Supply Chain Professionals on the Relationship Between Supply Chain Challenges and Business Performance. Supervisor, Professor C. Mafini. Ingegan C.A. Catherine Angelique. Vice-Chancellor, I hereby request that you confer the diplomas and degrees in absentia on those students whose names appear on the program but could not be present here today.
I hereby do confer the diplomas and the degrees on the candidates whose names appear on the program but could not be present at this congregation.
Vice-Chancellor, I thank you.
That's
I think the choir deserves another round of applause. This morning, I said that in isiZulu, when you recognize and greet people, if you're greeting one person, you say sawubona, and he or she will respond and say sawubona. And so as I am standing here this afternoon, when I say sanbonani, I want you to respond and say sawubona. Sanbonani. That's very good, because I will not be accused of not having recognized any one of you. Because when you say sanbonani, that alone is very inclusive. And so all of you are recognized. But most importantly, let me do the ordinary thing of recognizing the members of council present here. Professor Patrick Khadebe, even though he's a member of staff, he is on council. So we recognize him in that capacity, as well as Mr. Ikaning Mapalane, who came all the way from work to be with us this afternoon. And I would like him to rise, because I would like to thank you very much, sir. I'm asking him to rise so that I can be able to get a bonus. Otherwise, I will not be able to get a bonus if I don't recognize him. Colleagues, amongst the students who walked across the stage was none other than Mr. Dlamini, who was the president of the SRC. He is in our midst, and I would like him to rise wherever he is so that we give recognition and say, even though that's right, yeah. Mr. Dlamini, we're challenging you that you must come back for your M. This is just a semicolon, you need to proceed. May I recognize the presence of the executive members of management present here to grace the occasion. But most importantly, allow me to recognize the presence of the academic members of staff, without whose zeal and professionalism and commitment to the academic project, the students would not have been able to walk across this stage. And so, my colleagues, thank you very much. Quite often, we don't rise and give recognition to all of your efforts. This is really the testimony of the long nights and days, sometimes frustrations that you have had to endure. But I think the beauty of your endeavors is now crystallized by seeing the products of your hands walking across this stage. And so thank you ever so much, and I'm sure they deserve a round of applause. Thank you. Allow me also to recognize members of the media present, as well as the members of the family, parents, and sponsors of our students. But most importantly, this choir. I think we will be failing if we don't give recognition to this choir, which keeps us going all the time. And yesterday I shared a moment with the audience. And last night, Vumile, I spoke to my brother again, Monwabi Sinkula. I said to him, don't be confused when I say my brother, and you see on the program, it is Z-I-D-E. You know, we Africans have got many relatives. So Monwabi Sinkula is my brother, full stop. So I said to him, Monwabi, please, I made a public announcement that this choir, through your efforts, is going to cut a CD. And he said to me, he still stands by that commitment. And so, Vumile, that commitment is still there. And he said, where's Vumile? He likes hiding himself. Yeah, and he said that he has spoken to you. He will be coming over to listen to these beautiful voices so that the dream which I shared with him of this choir cutting a CD should really be fulfilled. And so the ball is really in your court. They deserve a round of applause. And so, colleagues, before the end of next year, you will be having in your cars a VUT choir, a CD. And maybe for the first round, it might be free, but just to give you a taste of what VUT is all about. And once you have tasted it, evidently, you will have to buy it at a very reasonable price. I'm not going to tell you how much it's going to be, but it's going to be very reasonable. And so please do support this choir. They are just your children, and they need to be supported. I want to recognize, certainly last but by no means least, the graduates who walked across the stage. I think you guys have really done the best you could. Studying under these trying times, it has not been easy, particularly that last year we're faced with all the challenges of fees must fall. But notwithstanding that challenge, nonetheless, you did burn the midnight oil. And that is why this afternoon I want to talk to you by borrowing from the book written by Mahmoud Mamdani, When Victims Become Killers. Mahmoud Mamdani is that author from Uganda, and he is tracing the tragedy of people who yesteryear became struggle stalwarts, supporting a democratic revolution. But when the democracy dawns, the very people who were victims of oppression and suppression become killers of the very democracy they fought against. And so I want to share that experience with you, colleagues, this afternoon, that it would be a sad day that in your midst, as we are embracing and entertaining this new democratic dispensation, we have in you victims of yesteryear who are now going to be killers of tomorrow. It cannot be. I'm saying this against the backdrop today, 40 years ago, the South African Security Police brutally murdered Steve Bantu Biko. He was imprisoned in Buoma, a small suburb in Port Elizabeth, where he was kept and interrogated, and they assaulted him so brutally. But having done all of that, they decided to shackle him naked and put him at the back of a 4x4 and drove him all the way from PE, about 1,200 kilometers to Pretoria. There was a guy there called Captain Skuman. I know him personally because I was once one of his victims. On this day, 40 years ago, I too, because of having participated in so-called illegal strike at Forte, I became a guest of honor of the state, where I also, under the Internal Security Act, spent about 90 days in detention. But that is history. But the most important thing is that, notwithstanding all the trials and tribulations which we went through, we are still remaining focused on what is in the best interest of this country. And so my children, I want to say to you, remain focused and look at what is in the best interest of this university. Because if this university goes under, it is not only management or the students currently here, but you too, as alumni, as convocants, your university will go under. So try and protect its good name as best you can. And evidently, now I want to borrow from Professor Mutana, my predecessor. She would always say, when your pockets get heavier and heavier, don't just think about yourselves. Think about your alma mater and say that I am what I am because of the VUT University of Technology. And so if there is a way in which I could give back to the university, let me do so. Even if you pledge 40 rands or 50 rands a month, but if it comes from all of you, that 50 rands per person per month will make a huge contribution towards the education of your brothers and sisters. And remember, we are still waiting for the Presidential Commission on Student Fees, which is led by the SC, the HEHE, which is called the HEHE Commission. Now, HEHE, it's not laughing, it's H-E-H-E-R. It's a HEHE Commission. But it's nice, we can laugh about it, but it's a HEHE Commission. We're still waiting for the outcome of that. And at the level of higher education in South Africa, there is a debate that perhaps even before the release or after the release, we as management should engage with all stakeholders and think about the future of this country, particularly with respect to higher education. And so that is why I'm standing before you today and say, when victims become killers, we should be very careful and not be the ones who are contributing towards killing what we have been standing for. I think it is very important that in our journey, as we shall be moving towards joining the market forces, joining the open labor market, we should listen to that silent voice. And that silent voice would consistently be saying to us, why am I occupying this particular space? The space you're occupying is a space for a purpose. It's a space for meaning. It's a space for your own worldview. In other words, it suggests that God created you for a purpose, and that purpose is to fulfill the mission of your parents. And by the way, don't you dare, no matter what the circumstances are. You know, we know of people, I had a friend of mine when I was, we were students at Forte. He came from Matatiele, and his elder brother was a policeman in Guamashu. Now, what he would do, I'm not going to mention the name, it could happen that the relatives are here, but what he would do, he would catch a bus or even a kumbi and go to Durban together with a group from Guamashu, because he will say he comes from Guamashu. And when he is in Guamashu, he will silently catch a bus to Matatiele, and then he will spend his time there. And when it is about a week before the schools open, he will catch another bus, go back to Guamashu, so that when he goes to Forte, he comes to Forte with a group from Guamashu. Now, he was missing the point, trying to hide his identity. And we used to say to him, man, forget Guamashu. When you work, you will get your own Guamashu. Don't hide your roots and your background. Whether you come from rural village, whether you come from Emaplazini, fact of the matter is that you are at Forte now. You are going to shape your own future. And so, my children, whether your mother or your father is a gardener or a maid, fact of the matter, they put aside money for you to be here today and for you to put on the gowns and the hoods that you wear. So
never, never, ever in your life look down upon the people who have put you where you are, who have brought you up and made certain that you are what you are because of them. Because if you do that, you will, in fact, be subscribing to Mahmoudi's book, When Victims Become Killers. I think that message is clear. Let me conclude, because I've been talking a lot now. Let me conclude by saying, and this is something that I shared this morning, about ethical leadership and midnight challenges. You know, when victims become killers, it means that they have lost their identity. They have lost the ethical, moral principles. And that is why ethical leadership is needed, particularly in our country during times we're living in today. Because our country is facing 3 kinds of midnights. And these midnights are the midnights which you, in your journey, as you will be joining the open labor market, will be confronted with. Now, the first midnight which will come your way is midnight within the social order. Because family lives are broken and there is no support base. It is midnight because people are dying of natural and unnatural causes. And the number of orphans, widows, and widowers is increasing. And yes, it is midnight. And ethical leadership is more needed now than ever before. And that is the space that you would have to play in. Number 2, it is midnight within the psychological order. Everywhere, paralyzing fears narrow people by day and haunt them by night. Deep clouds of anxiety and depression are suspended in our mental skies. More people are emotionally and mentally disturbed today than at any other time of human history. Remember the 100 mentally ill patients who died at the hands of non-caring health officials in this very province of ours. All of these threats are indicative of the fact that it is midnight within the inner lives of human beings, as ethical leadership is non-existent, and indeed, as victims become killers. It is also midnight within the moral order. At midnight, colors lose their distinctiveness and become a sullen shade of gray. Moral principles have lost their distinctiveness for modern men. And for some of the present-day generations of politicians, absolute right and absolute wrong is a matter of what the majority is doing. Right and wrong are relative to likes and dislikes and the customs of a particular community. We have unconsciously applied the Einstein's theory of relativity, which properly equates the physical universe to the moral ethical realism. Midnight is the hour when men desperately seek to obey the 11th commandment. And you know that the Bible talks about 10 commandments. And I don't think that any one of you knew that there is an untold 11th commandment. And that 11th commandment is, thou shalt steal, but not get caught. And according to the ethic of midnight, the cardinal sin is to be caught, and the cardinal virtue is to lie. But one must lie with real finesse. It is right to steal if one is so dignified that if caught, the charge becomes embezzlement, not robbery. We have seen this happening with some of our government officials. It is permissible even to hate if one so dresses his hating in the garments of love, that hating appears to be loving. Example, the Oscar Pistorius versus River Steenkamp case. At a time when Oscar was supposed to have shown love to River. We don't know what happened in that apartment, but all what we know is that River was brutally murdered. The Darwinian concept of the survival of the fittest has been substituted by a philosophy of the survival of the slickest. This mentality has brought a tragic breakdown of moral standards and indeed has brought about moral decay in our society, and the midnight of moral degeneration deepens. What then must we do about these forces of darkness as we continue to traverse the journey, fighting against the victims who subsequently became killers? You know that in life you'll be confronted with the following challenges. But whatever the nature of the challenges could be, do the right thing. Even if no one is looking at you, do the right thing, because this is how your parents brought you up. And so Martin Luther King says, people are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win fake friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. Don't care a hoot what people say, because whether you move or you don't move, they will always have something to say. So in other words, whether they talk or they don't talk, succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Don't listen to the naysayers. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest mind. Think big anyway. Don't respond to the people with small minds. They are not your equals. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs, but follow top dogs. Fight for the underdogs anyway. And remember that you are where you are because of the underdogs. The people like the Robert Sobukwes and the Mandelas and the Steve Bigos of this world followed the footsteps of one of the greatest politicians of all time, and that is none other than the Jesus Christ of the Bible. I'm not too sure about other religious faiths, but I do know that they equally recognize their own messiahs. He fought for the underdogs. People really need, but may attack you if you do help them. Help them anyway. Even if they attack you, help them anyway and do good. Get the world the best you have, and you will get kicked in the teeth. So whether you help or you don't help, they will kick you in the teeth and smack you in the face. Give the world the best you have anyway. An ethical leader is the one who, against all odds and adversities, grow from good to better, and from better to great, and from great to awesome, from awesome to auspicious, from auspicious to ostentatious, from ostentatious to incredible, from incredible to remarkable, and from remarkable to fantastic, from fantastic to fabulous, and from fabulous to magnificent, from magnificent to majestic, from majestic to splendid, and from splendid to spectacular, from spectacular to revolutionary, and from revolutionary to victory, and from victory to contentment. That is what I'm challenging you to do. Grow yourselves from one glory to the next glory. And finally, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, when addressing the 1949 graduation ceremony at Forte, said these words, and I am throwing them to you now. And I quote him, "Let me plead with you, lovers of my Africa, to carry with you into the world the vision of a new Africa, an Africa reborn, an Africa rejuvenated, an Africa recreated, young Africa. We are the glimmers of a new dawn. Go out there and preach the gospel of a united South Africa, of a united Africa, of a united humanity, of a united revolutionary humanism, of a united nationalism, of a united VUT, and of a united you and me and all of us." I thank you. Can we rise for the singing of the national anthem? The powers vested in me as Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I now dissolve the congregation of the VUT University of Technology.
Sana